President's Committee and Christ Hospital in Cincinnati. I want to welcome everybody to this professionalism presentation, courtesy of Steve Brown. But and we'll introduce him in just a few seconds. But before we get started, remind everybody that down towards the bottom of your screen, you'll be able to ask any question you'd like. Please feel free to write in your questions. Yours truly will be taking those questions and passing them on to our speaker. And so it is with my pleasure to introduce Nancy Farkas, who will introduce our speaker for the day.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm really glad that you're able to join us today for the second in our ongoing presentation on professionalism. As you may know, professionalism is a key focus of the WCR Past Presidents Advisory Committee, of which I'm chair this year. And we are so delighted to have Steve Brown with us today to make this presentation. Few realtors in Ohio are as well known to fellow realtors as our guest speaker today, Steve Brown. A very successful realtor for more than 40 years and co-owner of Iron Gate Realtors in Dayton, my company. Steve has served as the president of Dayton Realtors, as president of Ohio Realtors, and he's been served as regional vice president for NAR, as a 2009 NAR vice president for committees, and most famously as the 2014 president of the National Association of Realtors. His list of awards and honors is really too long to repeat. I could go on for half an hour more, but I won't. Just a couple more comments. What you may not know about Steve is that he's a second-generation realtor, a graduate of Indiana University School of Public and Environmental Affairs, and he holds 2 graduate degrees, neither in business. One is in theology and the other is in psychology. This tells you a lot about the man and why people, both realtors and clients, turn to Steve when they need answers. Most importantly, Steve has been a member and enthusiastic supporter of WCR for more than 3 decades. This has all been a rather serious introduction for someone who has a great laugh and enjoys sharing that laugh with everyone he meets. I'm so pleased to introduce my colleague and friend, Steve Brown.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you so much. It was really a lovely introduction. I very much appreciate that. And for years and years, I would tell Nancy the only problem with her career is that she was at the wrong company. And finally, she listened to me after quite some time. And we are delighted, Nancy, that you are a part of the Iron Gate family. And I also want to thank the WCR's past presidents for their emphasis on professionalism. There's been thousands of books written on professionalism. You can Google it and spend half the day just reading different thoughts about professionalism. And it is the key to who we are as a realtor. And it certainly is the key. And I think more than anything else, it's what WCR stands for, is professionalism and increasing and raising that bar, which we've done in other ways through the National Association. But particularly, I think the WCR has carried that banner long before that emphasis was really brought to the forefront at NAR. I also want to thank our current president, Debbie, for having me here today. And I salute you and your work this year. So with that said, why don't we go to my PowerPoints, and I'll begin here. So as Charlie said, one thing I really would like is I would feel better about if this were a discussion, and obviously that's not possible. But I hope that we can have some type of discussion through chat, and feel free to ask any question at any time. And this is more of a discussion than it is certainly it's not a lecture. It's sharing some thoughts. I would tell you, when Nancy actually asked me to do this, my first thought was, my goodness, I know so many of the members of WCR, and there would be so many of you who could make this presentation as effectively as anyone in our industry, without question. Your record of service for our industry, your success in sales, in helping clients throughout the years is notable and remarkable. And that's, again, what WCR stands for. So I'm going to share, though, this morning, 9 professional lessons that I've learned over the last 40 years. And these are only 9, maybe there are more, but and certainly I hope there will be in the future I can add to this list. But for today, we're going to go talk about 9. So let's go to our first slide here. So your ethics communicate who you are as a professional. How a task is accomplished is as important as getting it accomplished. I really can't emphasize, if we talked about nothing for the next hour except our code of ethics, I mean, that really lays out the expectation of what a professional should be, what a professional should do. But sometimes we emphasize the more dire aspects of the code of ethics, those that we can lose our license in if we commit those infractions. What I would like to focus on, and what I think is very important about our code, is when we look at Articles 11 and 16. Article 11 talks about competency. If there's any one thing that I have learned over the years, if we want to have a reputation of professionalism, and if you want people to stand in respect of who you are and what you do, you have to know your subject. You have to know everything about it, more than anyone else. You are the expert, and you've got to realize that in your expertise, you are going to share and help others. Article 11 is very interesting in that it acknowledges that we cannot be the master of all areas in real estate. We can't know everything there is to know about every discipline that this umbrella of real estate would cover. So some of you are going to specialize, and maybe most of us are going to specialize in the residential real estate aspect, but there's also real property management. There's commercial and industrial real estate. There's real estate appraisal, syndication, auction, international real estate. I think that if there's one thing that can distinguish you from so many of our members, our 1.3 million members, is that we carry a higher knowledge. We have studied, we have read more than any of our other associates that call themselves realtors. You know, when I was president of NAR, and sometimes I hate to talk about when I was president, it sounds like I'm talking about old war stories or something of that nature. But I during that time, especially as I went through the chairs up to the presidency, I learned to read. I learned to speed read. I mean, yes, I have a couple of grad degrees, but I never learned to read like I did when I was in the chairs to be president. I can tell you, uh, you've got to read. You've got to stay up to date on the laws. And it's amazing. I recently, I thought a very qualified realtor presented to one of our agents in our office a property disclosure form, a residential property disclosure form. And it was not the state mandated disclosure form. What was shocking about that is that this agent told our agent, well, this is an acceptable substitution for the state mandated residential property disclosure. Any of us who've been in this business, any of us who have just some understanding of real estate law in our state knows that there is only one form, there's only one accepted form, and if we are ever audited, if that form is not in place, there better be a good reason why it's not in place. That or the form that would exclude or that the necessity of having that form. So you might think that some folks that have been in our business for a long time and who are successful realtors know it all. Trust me, they don't. And that's where you as a professional can distinguish yourself among your colleagues. When you have that knowledge is power, and you can get that in courses, hopefully like this, in so many other ways. So I would encourage you to read in your time off, and if real estate is in your blood, that reading is not a labor. It's almost an intoxicating to understand our industry in a broader aspect. The second article I would draw your attention to is Article 16. And many of you probably are aware of this, but it's all about respecting our fellow realtors, that we're not to engage in any practice or take any action that's inconsistent with agency or other exclusive relationships with other realtors. So let me go to the next slide. Oh, I'm going to go back here to the. Let me explain. Article 16 covers all kinds of things, from innovative and or aggressive business practices to advertising, solicitation, dealing with other brokers' clients, obligations that we have entering into an exclusive relationship, and agency brokerage relationships. Article 16 is about respecting our colleagues, our fellow realtors, our fellow WCR members, and of course, everyone in the industry. I would tell you that has, in the markets that we're in today, sometimes have waned in how we practice and how we treat others. So with that said, let me bump up to the next one. A professional knows they do not work in isolation. I copied something. This next slide is not original. This was sent out by a broker of one of our largest Midwest largest companies in the state of Ohio. And this is what the broker sent out. In tough markets like this, you absolutely cannot overstate the value of professional realtor to realtor relationships. That is professional courtesy. Listing agents discuss with their sellers who the buyer's agent is and the likelihood of not only a smooth transaction, but a mutual goal of closing. Having a reputation of honesty and integrity goes a long way in facilitating a positive result in a multi-offer situation. More importantly, agents with the opposite reputation often find themselves on the rejected list. You can still perform your duties as a strong negotiator and a staunch advocate for your clients, but when challenged, always work from a find a solution mindset. So I'm probably like every one of you. I've written offers that have been rejected, and it just because of the deep competition we have and the lack of inventory. But because I have always worked, and I have one assistant who helps me, and in our business, in our little business world, I have told her from day one, we want people to want to work with us. That's what we want. And I know it's hard not to get snotty sometimes, not to respond in a negative or way, especially when we're being treated badly on the other end. But all I keep saying, you get far more with honey than you do with vinegar. You just get much further in a relationship and in a negotiation. So yesterday, I wrote an offer for a home that was $589,000. There ended up being 4 other offers. I did not get the offer, but what I did get was were phone calls in advance of presenting that offer to the sellers from the agency. Steve, I've known you for years. I'd love to put a deal together with you. This is where we are in the process, and she never stepped over the line in representing her people, but she helped us, and we came in number 2 in this, and we're now in a backup position on that property. But I just can't emphasize enough, and you all know, you all have these experiences. I know there's one realtor in our market here in Dayton that if this agent shows our property or our listings, we pray she doesn't bring an offer in. It's always a nightmare. It's always a challenge. You don't want that you want that to be your reputation. You want on the opposite end, say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad she brought that offer to me. And they take it and they sell it to the seller. I know this agent. I know she's going to get it to the closing table. I know we have some obstacles here, but she knows how to work it through. That's the kind of reputation. You've got to think about your reputation and professionalism, your brand. Your company is your umbrella, which is extremely important. There's no question about that. But your brand in the market is what is going to make the difference on a day-to-day basis, and especially in this kind of market. So I just wanted to share some of those things with you up front, and think about where we are today in a market that has an extraordinarily historically low inventory. Now the good side of that, just a sidebar here, is that our economist at NAR, Dr. Lawrence Yun, suggests that as this pandemic winds down, as more and more people have their shots, we're going to see the market, people loosen up. The market is going to grow this year, even though right now it may not feel like that. I totally understand that. We're down as a company in the number of pendings year to date, but we notice every week that number is increasing, and there is more and more activity in the marketplace. So don't be discouraged. And I would tell you that as a professional, you have got to guide people through. You have got to guide your colleagues through a market like this that think, oh my gosh, the world's coming to an end. We'll never sell another home. As a professional, you have not just a short-term view, you have that long-term view. You can see down the road. You understand the benefit of our process, of our industry, and how we can serve and help our clients in buying a home. So Let me shift gears here, though, for a moment, and look at something from a different angle. One of the most powerful characteristics of a professional is authenticity, knowing yourself, recognizing who you really are and how you relate to people and the problems around you, whether you are comfortable in your skin, gives you a power most people do not possess. People can feel it when you're authentic. So, so there's always good talks on professionalism about certainly, and that's very important, how we dress. I want to tell you, this just really bothers me. I was showing a house last night. It was late, and there's a realtor in the house before me, before we got in, and so three people walk out of the house. Two of the people are in normal street clothes, long pants and so forth. The other person is in a pair of shorts and flip-flops and a t-shirt. And so I go to retrieve the key from the people that have kind of sort of a dress, professional looking dress. The realtor was the guy standing there in short pants and flip-flops. Now, what I found interesting about that is that his clients did not look like him. They may have been friends, but I thought, what a mismatch here. Whereas I have seen people, one of our agents here, he walked out of a closing, he had ripped jeans on and flip-flops and a t-shirt. And I said to him, I said, hey, shouldn't you dress up a little bit for a closing? Well, then I looked in his closing room and his clients looked just like him. So what does that say? That says, I think what that said about him is that he was dressing for his clients. He knew who they were. He knew who he was. He felt comfortable in that environment. You've got to have that feeling of authenticity, not feeling. You've got to be authentic. You've got to understand and claim who you are. You know, that's not always easy to do. It certainly wasn't easy for me as I grew up, if you will, in this industry. It's something that as you go through life, hopefully you will begin to feel more and more comfortable with who you are and how you can help others and what your talents are. And if they sense that for 1 minute, they're going to sense someone they can trust. I would say that if you left today thinking about one thing, think about who you are, claim who you are, understand who you are, and hopefully you'll be able to develop a sense of pride in who you are, not arrogance, just an acceptance of who you are. That communicates. That's what people are going to feel when they're in and with you. Now, the next thing, though, the next lesson that I've learned is your ability to persuade others to follow hinges on your professional ability to listen empathetically to others. Empathy is so critical. You can know yourself, but if you do not take the time to get to know your client, to understand your client, you're going to fall short in the sales process. In a market like this, yeah, you might make the sale because it's hot right now and so forth. But long term, I hope you all are thinking about your career, not in the short term, but in the long term, because this is one business that literally you can stay in and a part of as long as you want to. Different volume levels, different work strategies, but it is a business that can carry in. And if you're like me, I think I inherited this passion from my mom, who was a realtor, and She encouraged me to get my license just as an interim until I decided what I wanted to do. But once it gets in your blood, you know it. But that's all good for understanding who you are. You've got to now reach out to your clients and understand who they are and what they expect of you, and listen to their cares and concerns. That's really so critical. You can have the greatest message, but if you don't speak the language of the people you're talking to, that message goes void. So getting back to the fellow in our office who walked out of the closing room and cut off jeans and flip-flops. His clients felt comfortable with him. He knew his clients. He knew how to communicate and work with them. They came in with one of his highest service ratings after the closing. Would I walk into a closing if I had a young couple? Probably not, but I might not be wearing a tie with certain clients. But an older client, an older couple, you bet I'm going to put my tie on when I first meet them or look at their house to list a house. That's what's being a professional. You are understanding who you are, and you are able to relate, totally relate to that client, and they will, trust me, they will feel that. I'm going to put something here on the screen that you all have heard of and know of. Maya Angelou, winner of the National Medal for the Arts, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and more than 50 honorary degrees. And the familiar saying is, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I think that as I hear back from my clients, I give a holiday gift to all of my clients over the years, and that list has grown, fortunately. And the cards that I get, it's very rare. I've noticed this over the years. They rarely mention the house, but what they mention is, "Guys, Steve, you've never forgot us. Guys, Steve, we get your little gift and we put it under the tree." They relate to you. They begin to relate to you more personally, and in a world that is so automated, that is so critically important that you can learn to relate to them personally, and they relate to you personally. That sets you apart. That's a professional. You have done your job when they begin to relate to you, not just as a salesperson, because guess what? They can get any salesperson any time of the day and probably at any price they want to pay. But when they feel that you care for them and you're there to service them, that makes you special. That makes you their professional. I love it when my clients every now and then said, "This is my realtor." I just like, "This is my attorney," or "This is my doctor. This is my realtor." That's a great moment when you hear that. And I'm going to say this to you twice. You know, we are in an incredible profession, an incredible industry, one that helps people. When you look at the wealth that people can build by owning a home compared to renting, these are numbers, these are stats. This is not some puffery from NAR. This is real data. You're serving a need that is so critical. You're giving someone in their environment where they're going to experience life, happiness, sadness, all of it. You are delivering to them something that is so critical to their livelihood and their well-being that never ever take for granted. the importance of who you are and what you do. So I often quote another woman who is one of my favorite. I love reading some of her material, and that's Helen Keller. As you know, she was blind and deaf from childhood, yet whose lifetime work saw her awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. But here's what she once explained when asked about life and what was important, and just philosophically, she was addressing a group of young people. When they asked her about her life, she said, "The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched." Bear in mind, from someone who could not see. They must be felt in the heart. That's what I'm telling you. If you want to be an exceptional professional, you have to have the knowledge. Yes, no question about that. But you've got to feel it in your heart. That's going to make you special. That's going to make you different from all the competition in the marketplace. And at the end, I think you can step back and hear, hey, I did okay. I helped a lot of people. So the next thing, and the next lesson about being a professional is being willing to admit mistakes. We are not perfect. Goodness, Lord knows I have made countless mistakes. And I think there's, and you can again get on Google and Google all these quotes from people about admitting a mistake. But admitting a mistake does not diminish your professionalism, but rather it is the mark of a professional. It's a mark of truth and honesty. In being able to step back and not make any excuse. I was wrong. I was wrong about that. I've learned, but here's what we're going to do. Here's what I'm going to do. There have been times when I've made a mistake, and I felt the only way to make this right was to compensate the people in some form or fashion. I do not like giving up funds. I don't like doing that, but there are times that the situation may call for that.
Tell her I'm on the Zoom.
What's that? Somebody said, anyway, that's really, that's something about, that's the full picture here, folks. That's the full picture. Yes, you're knowledgeable. Yes, you know what the right path is. Yes, you're doing it, but I'm not perfect. I can make a mistake, and to be willing to step up and say, I was wrong, and I'm sorry, and I'm going to make it right for you. Don't be afraid of saying I'm sorry. I know some people have said that's the hardest 3 words, I am sorry, that someone can say. It is difficult because our ego, our pride totally gets in the way. And sometimes you have to say that to one of your colleagues, and maybe that's even tougher than saying it to a client. But that's all a part of what makes you a professional. I think that this point, especially in this day and age that we are all living, is about how we treat others. Be kind. I know sometimes that doesn't come easy, but I can tell you this, and I'm probably much older than many of you on this in this meeting, but I can tell you that when I have fought back or not been so nice, And believe me, there have been times when that's happened. Not many, but there have been times. That's a and what's worse, even when maybe I prevailed in the situation, how does that make me feel at the end of the day? Not good. What makes me feel good is that I think I'm learning, no matter what the circumstance is, I can be strong, I can be forthright, but I can always be kind. You know, there in this terrible pandemic that we've gone through, one thing I have noticed is that when I do pick up food at a restaurant or grocery shopping or something, I've avoided as much as I can trying to always keep a social distance. Um, I would tell you that I have found myself trying to be expressively kind to the people that are helping me. To the lady that sits in the little booth at the gas station, and I wave to her. Little things like that. Boy, it's enlivening when you see her smile back and wave. That's a part of professionalism. How it's funny in that regard. She asked me, she said, "What do you do?" She leaned down on the I said, "I'm a realtor." I said, she said, "Okay, someday I'm going to call you." I said, "Okay." Well, I didn't do that to get a that, but you know, so often that is the fruit of kindness. Um, you know, how we act. I think the saddest thing that I have ever seen, and I'm gonna tell you the story exactly how it is. Um, my spouse's aunt died, and we were at the funeral. She was a very difficult person. Um, and as we walked away from the grave, her brother said to me, he said, "That was the meanest woman I have ever known in my whole life." And I'm thinking, other people heard him say that, and when they heard that, they agreed. And I thought, oh, Jiminy Christmas, I do not want to be remembered like that. I don't want that as my legacy. Um, I don't want that in. I don't want that for any of you. You know, the Realtor organization has stepped forward and done some very profound things in talking about how words matter, how what we say does make a difference, and how it affects other people. If you could just always think of your words are more powerful than anything that you can say, than you can do. What you say often is how it has such a great impact on others. You don't even know. I can tell you cards that I've received from people and I thanking me for something. I can't even honestly remember what it was that I did or said, but what I took away from that is, and this is what, the little things make a difference. The things that we don't even think about make a profound difference in the lives of the people that we're around.
Mhm.
So, taking all this thought in mind, once you got this all together, I mean, we're always getting it together. You can lead by conviction. You can lead with strength. You can lead with confidence of who you are, of what you're meant to do. and you know your path. You're a professional. You know where you're going. This is one thing that I just think is so incredibly important. And actually, I was in last year at this time, well, just before this time, I was in Africa. I was asked to do a 1 week's workshop in Uganda, and it was an amazing experience. I had never been to Africa. I'd never talked to an audience of all Africans, and you know, they come from a different cultural perspective to some degree. In other ways, they're just like anybody else, with the same feelings and wants and desires and so forth. But it was really quite an experience. And what I noticed is during that week is how they treated each other with thankfulness. They constantly were thanking people for anything. It was just an incredible to watch that, and the importance of thanking others. And then to bring it back home. So we all know the kind of market we're in, right? Little inventory, just very competitive. Let me tell you that I did not receive this letter, but one of my agents did. This is the letter she received. Good evening. First and foremost, I want to thank all of you for all your time and effort in this crazy market. As you know, the sellers of Southport can only choose one offer, as we ended up with a total of 29. The sellers have chosen another offer and send their sincerest appreciation to each of you. Thanks again, and I hope to work with you again in the near future. I didn't edit, I didn't change one word of this, but our agent here, who was one of the losing, did not get the deal. She came to me and she said, I've got to share this with you. She said, you know, she had written, it's incredible, 9 offers in the last 17 days and not one offer was accepted. She said, this is the first agent that ever reached out and thanked me. And she said, and she kind of was crying a little bit. And she said, you know, we'll get through it. And she said, this really meant a lot to me. And I wanted to share it with you. This is actually one of our fellow realtors, not with my company, with another company, sent this. What a difference that made. Her name, the agent, the woman who wrote this, our agent here will never, ever forget her name and what it meant to her to receive that. So 9, professionalism begins and ends with knowing yourself and reflecting on your own strengths and weaknesses. Lay out a course to strengthen your skills. We all have to constantly do that. In understanding your passion, make sustainable choices that bring personal fulfillment. This is true professionalism, being accountable for your gifts and talents. And I'm going to share another quote from Helen Keller that I love. Many persons have a wrong idea of what leads to true happiness. It is not attained through self-gratification, but through fidelity to a worthy purpose. Well, folks, you are in a profession, you are in a career, you are in an industry that has a extraordinary worthy purpose. Don't ever underestimate who you are and what you do and the profound difference you make in the lives of the people that you work with as colleagues and those that you serve. So I just will end here, but if open for comments afterwards. I know I probably talked too much that no one entered into a discussion, and that's perfectly fine. But thank you for your professionalism. Thank you for inviting me in. I really appreciate it. I sincerely do. And you know, WCR, I know it's the Women's Council of Realtors, but never let that name cloud over the fact that WCR has touched the lives of both women and men. And certainly you have mine. I've had the pleasure of working with the National Associate with WCR group, and some of your leadership is extraordinary. One of our leaders of WCR is Barb Locke, and I don't know if Barb's on. I think she was registered, but whether she's on or not,
She's on.
Great. Well,
She is on, Steve.
great. Well, Barb, your reputation in the market, in the industry, is based upon knowledge, based upon professionalism, based upon kindness. And you know, you're the package. And I salute you, Barb. You did a tremendous job as president. And of course, then Barb doesn't stop at president. She becomes all kinds of things with the National Association. So Barb, I had to call you out this morning.
Well, let me also say, Steve, she's the designated den mother to all of us in WCR Ohio. So we're always grateful for her counsel and for her love and attention that she gets the opportunity to demonstrate each time we're with her. So so far, the only questions we've seen are thank you, Steve, for your presentation. It was great. It's precisely what we have always asked about. And I can say, just as one past president, when I first heard of this, I was kind of a little unsure what we wanted to do, but presentations like yours is what this was all about. So thank you very much,
Well,
Steve.
Really, thank you, and it's truly my pleasure. And it's thank you. It's meant a lot for me to be here today. Very much.
Thank you, Steve. I wanted to again say once more how very, very pleased we are that you took the time to join us and give us your insights. It's really been wonderful.
Yeah.
I want to thank, this is Barbara. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, I want to thank the past presidents for being forward thinking and trying to set us on a stronger, straighter course as WCR members. I want to thank Nancy because Nancy, you are the person on that conversation when it came up that I thought would be the one to steer us in the right direction. And I think you've made a wonderful beginning. And I'm also just so grateful to Steve for coming back and picking us up and moving us forward in a major step here. And I think the times are difficult, but with people around us that are willing to share and give us the ideas and the support, we will all move forward. Steve, thank you. I love you. And I honestly love every single member of Women's Council. One meeting we had a box they presented me. It's on my closet shelf and I see it every day because it's decorated. And it is a group of Women's Council members who put a little note in a box for me one day. And it is filled with thank yous and love. And so I think that's the basic part of all of this is the love for one another and the intent to move each other forward. Steve, Nancy, Charlie, I love you all and every member that I've ever met in WCR.
Aw, Barbara, you're gonna make me cry.
No, no, I just want to include you all in my life. And
How
I
sweet.
have been grateful.
Well, you know, I have to just say, Barbara, I'll never forget how lovely you were when you came to my installation in Dayton. And you and Steve are both my mentors in every way and have been since.
Well, I'll remember that day also. We had a good time.
Thank you.
I told them who you were.
Thank you.
Nancy, you were a great president at Dayton. I've told you that before. But
thank
the problem is calling out some people here. That's not to say, I mean, I'm looking at the screen here and, you are all extraordinary people. And I would love to go through and just talk about each and every one of you and what you've done. And please know that your work is recognized, and you may not think that sometimes, but it really is.
Thank you for that, Steve.
Thank you. Well, Miss Nancy,
Yes,
have we accomplished our goal today?
I think we have. I think it's been a wonderful, enlightening, and inspiring presentation. And if nobody else has anything more to say, again, thank you, Steve. And thank you to Charlie. For those of you that don't know, Charlie is recovering from very serious surgery, and we all wish him our best and hope that we'll soon see him up and about again soon. Thank you, Steve.
I think we would be remiss if we did not address Christine Pappas, who set us on this course.
Yes.
Right.
Is Christine still with us?
I don't think so.
Well,
No.
Christine was last year's chair of the past presidents, and she certainly did a great job getting us started. And many, many thanks to Christine.
Mhm.
Charlie, I have to tell you, you can't hide. I knew that was a hospital bed, but I didn't know why.
No, it's been an experience. That's all I can say. And I asked earlier this week.